Hey everybody, it's Dave again. So let's do some ISO stuff. So let's go over ISO. What's the definition of ISO? So as experts would say it, it's called the camera sensitivity to light. You know, what I call it is adding fake light to an image. So that's how I look at it. We're just going to add some fake light to something to make it a lighter image so that we can make it more visible, or just the right lighting. So there's two ways to set ISO on a camera. There's auto and there's manual. Manual is most of the time the one you want to use because you can control it, you can do what you want to do with it, and you can set it where you want it, as low as you want, and we can go from there. I use manual on most everything, you know, like landscapes, portraits, or, you know, just some still birds or whatever, and wildlife that's not moving very fast. I do turn over to auto ISO when I'm photographing stuff like birds in flight or fast moving objects, because what happens is they go in and out of shaded areas and you don't really have time to adjust the ISO. You know, it's just the thing you have to do to try to catch the image. So those are kind of the different ways you can adjust ISO. So let's go over the next thing. So let's talk about some of the adjustments you make and where that all comes into play. So if we have our shutter speed and the aperture set the way we want, what we would do, and if it's still a little underexposed or too dark, what we do is we're going to add the light. So we're going to add ISO. So we're going to turn that up a bit to see if we get a good exposure, and just so that it's what we like, the taste that we like. Personally, I like things just a tad bit underexposed. I just kind of like the way that sits for me. But you know, you just adjust it the way you want. Now, if you're doing like fast moving objects, birds in flight and stuff like that, then you're going to want to make sure that you have the high shutter speed going on and the aperture this way you want it to be set, and then just put it on auto. And it's going to do the adjustment for you, because you need to stay focused on trying to track the object that you're trying to track at a high speed, because it's difficult to do and it takes a lot of time to practice, and you don't need to be worrying about your ISO, because the last thing you want to do is have it on manual and you're taking a picture and you blew out the whole sky and it's just not a usable image, or you turn around and you have it set and it was too dark, and then you're just going to fix it in post-processing, and you're going to add light anyway, and you're going to have the same issues. It's just going to be what it is. But always remember, those are the things you have to look at. Also, the key thing about ISO, when you have high ISO and you're getting the high ISOs and you're having a grain issue or causing the grain going on to the picture, so there are ways to fix that. So it's not something that you should worry about unless it gets really high and the camera you're using doesn't like the ISO too much. But there's programs that you can fix it in Lightroom and Photoshop. You can fix it in you know, like Topaz Denoise, and there's all kinds of other programs. Everybody has their preferences of programs. There's a million of them that are out there that you can try. So what I'm going to do now is go over some examples. I'm going to go out in the field and take some pictures and just show you the effects that it has when we go into ISO, and the difference between manual and tracking stuff that's fast moving or something, and just the effect that's going to have, and what the auto ISO, how it works, and show you how that works. So we're going to go into this right now. So here, let's just walk just real quick and we'll go from there. So let's go over how ISO affects the picture. So right now we're focused on this, and we're going to zoom in a little bit, and then what you'll see is if we add the ISO, obviously not shutter speed, if we go with the ISO, you'll see that it starts to get lighter and lighter. So we're adding too much light. So that's the effects, what happens if you get too much ISO going on. So if we back it back down to the 80 mark, we'll see that it's okay. It's a bright day out. I like to keep it just a little underexposed. I kind of like the coloring at that point. But then if we increase the aperture, you'll notice that it starts to get darker as well. So if you want to be on the f9, you could go ahead and keep the 160, and you can actually add a little bit of ISO and see where it goes to, and you'll see how you can straighten out the picture to where you want it to be. So that's where you're going to adjust the ISO to the settings that you want. And then what we can do is, there's a couple of ways of doing it. So now if we want to increase the shutter speed, if we're going to move something that's moving a little faster or so, once again, you see that once we increase the speed of the shutter speed, we're getting darker again. So then once again, we can go ahead and add some more ISO, and then you'll see that it starts to get back to the adjustment that we're looking for. But always remember, the more ISO that we can start to run, the more grainy or the issues you may have with the quality of the picture. But most cameras today are probably much, going to go do well handling the higher ISOs. So something to keep in mind as we go through each scenario, that we can adjust ISO. There's two different modes for ISO. There's manual and auto. Most of the time I'm shooting for landscapes or portraits or anything, I try to do with manual, so I could have time to adjust the ISO during the pictures and each shot. But I do like to use auto when it comes time to filming like fast moving birds or in flight or something. And I'll show you what happens. If you're in manual right now and you decide to type chasing a bird, you'll watch how this will start to change and change and change and start to get blown out. Now the sky is blowing out. If it's a bird you're trying to chase across the way, you're pretty much in trouble right now, because it's going to have blown out background, and that's not going to work out for you. So now on the same situation, we're going to change it over to auto. As you can see, it turned into auto. And so now when we turn around and do the same type of a thing, you'll see this go up here, and then you'll see the ISO start to change, and then everything will change, and then you'll just start to change where the ISO is going down, so you're not going to blow out the background as much, and so it's going to be a better deal adjusting to the environment that you're trying to shoot at, so you're not going to have any blown out scenes where the whites are just becoming too bright. So that's pretty much ISO. So what I want to do real quick is I'm going to show you a quick way to make sure that, at least on a Nikon, how you can change from auto to manual ISO. What you would do is you would take and you'd see this button right here, which is ISO button right here. So we'd push this, I'd turn the outer wheel, and the outer wheel would turn it automatically to auto ISO. So if I wanted to go back to it, what I would do is take this and then turn it again. It'd go back to to manual ISO. So once we're there, if we're in manual, the way I would adjust the ISO was I would be pushing the ISO button, and then I would return the back wheel, and that would cause the ISO to continue to go up so that we could, add ISO and go from there. So that's pretty much where we're at with the ISO world. So let's just go from there, and then we'll finish this video off. So that's it for ISO. Probably can go a lot deeper if we wanted to get into it, but I don't find any real reason to do it. But we can go from there. So I'm going to go on to shutter speed next, so we can go and do some shutter speed stuff. Hey, I really appreciate all the time that you guys put in to maybe hang out with us. If you have a chance, please subscribe below. Or put a like on it, whatever you can do for me. I appreciate it. I really appreciate the time that you've been hanging out. So have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Take care.